Hi, this is Mike Power, President and CEO of Silver Range Resources, and this is an updated presentation on our Cambridge property. First, a quick word from our lawyers. The Cambridge property is located about 18 miles southeast of Yerington in Lyon County. It's in the heart of the Walker Lane, home to many high-grade gold and silver deposits in western Nevada. The Cambridge property is a joint venture between Auburn Gold Mining from Sacramento, California, and Silver Range. What we've done is combine our respective claim blocks and stake intervening claims. Auburn has a former Cambridge mine, the heart of the Cambridge district. Silver Range has the Price Lode Trend to the west. We've staked some joint claims between these two blocks and have agreed to market the entire camp as a single package. Mineralization near the Cambridge mine was first discovered in the late 1850s, about the same time that the Comstock Lode was discovered. The property changed hands a number of times, and significant development only occurred in the late 1870s when Henry Blasdell, the first governor of Nevada, acquired the property. Sank a shaft, began some underground exploration. He constructed a stamp mill down by the Walker River and an assay office. About 10 years later, the property again languished, and various operators picked it up since. Total development to date on the property consists of a shaft about 400 feet deep with production on 2 levels. Estimated total production is about 10,000 tons. In the early 1940s, the Cambridge Mining Corporation restarted mining at Cambridge, but unfortunately their operation was shut down by FDR's gold mining order. The mill foreman, Ernest Rink, picked up the project and held it until the 1960s. Silver Range staked in the area in 2016 and Auburn a couple of years later, and we consolidated the project in 2020. There are numerous historic mine workings on the property. This is a compilation of mine workings from USGS topo maps with the property outline shown in purple. You can see numerous shafts and adits on the property, generally along north-south trends. Here's some drone footage shot in the area of the Cambridge mine, just to give you a feel for what's left on the property and what the terrain looks like. Though it's a pretty flat area, bedrock sticks out now and then, but mostly covered with overburden. All that's left in the area of the Cambridge mine are the spoil piles. The head frames have been removed, and the main shaft that you can see here has actually been covered in and wired off. So there's not much left. Turning to the regional geology, here's the Cambridge property outlined in red, superimposed on the regional geology in the area. You can see that the structural grain is generally north-northwest with a few east-northeast cross faults. The general area is underlain by Cretaceous granodiorite, granite, quartz monzonite, with some overlying metavolcanics and some younger tertiary volcanics. If you zoom into the immediate property area, you see that the Cambridge property is underlain by quartz monzonite, Cretaceous age. There's some overlapping tertiary volcanics, but they're not related to the mineralization that we find largely in the Cretaceous quartz monzonite. Gold on the Cambridge property is mesothermal shear zone hosted. The shears cut the quartz monzonite. They're 1 to 3 meters wide, often intensely cerussitized both within and surrounding them. There are stringers and veins of quartz within the shears. The largest veins we've heard of were up to 7 feet wide in the Cambridge mine. The quartz contains pyrite, chalcopyrite, and galena and the oxidation products thereof. There's some very splashy high-grade visible gold found in the Cambridge area. Here are some samples that were recovered by Auburn Gold Mining in the immediate area of the Cambridge mine. This is a plot of gold in rock samples collected across the combined Enigma Cambridge property to date. As of this March, we collected 68 samples along the Enigma and Cambridge trends. Approximately 1/3, 29%, are better than 5 grams per ton, and the best assay recorded to date on the property is 80 grams per ton. Interestingly, off the main Cambridge trend, to the north. There's an association between gold in rock samples and lead, silver, antimony, and copper, as well as with tungsten and moly, suggesting to us that we're likely looking at a mesothermal system here. The last slide I showed you was rock sample results as of December 21. During November 22, we went and examined the area south of the Cambridge mine. It's an area we hadn't sampled before, but we had reason to believe there might be some good gold numbers in there. We got most of it done. We were sampling historic trenches and shafts. We missed these guys here, which I think will be quite good whenever we get back to them. But nonetheless, the results we got working in this area here were quite good, including a dump sample that came back up to 93 grams per ton gold, and 8 out of 18 samples we collected in this area ran better than 5 grams per ton, with some high silver up to 265 and some copper and lead. In 2020, we ran an airborne total magnetic field and radiometric survey over the entire property. This work was conducted by Precision Geosurveys of Pitt Meadows, BC. We're looking here at the total magnetic field data reduced to pole. You can see in the data that there are numerous interesting trends, particularly in this data here where we've shaded it from the west. If we plot all these trends, and here I've highlighted them with black lines, we see there's an interesting pattern. This pattern is associated with some of the bedrock mineralization we found. Here are the surface samples of gold in bedrock plotted with the various trends in black. And you can see that the price load trend over here to the west correlates well with, at least in part, with this magnetic trend. There's a strong correlation here over near the Cambridge mine on this trend. Not so much up here at the north zone trend. Nonetheless, it's interesting that the total field data is providing some sort of a picture of what the bedrock architecture might be to this mineralized system. We followed the airborne survey up with some detailed soil surveys. Now, we would have liked to cover the whole property with a detailed soil survey, because we found that this is a useful technique in delineating mineralization on the project, but resources were limited. So instead, we focused on defining mineralization in detail along the 3 known mineralized trends. That's the price load trend here on the former Enigma claims, the Cambridge mine trend, and the north grid. On each of these grids, we conducted the surveys on lines spaced 50 meters apart across the inferred trends of the mineralization, and samples were spaced 25 meters apart along soil lines. In areas of anomalous response, we went back in later in the season and detailed the response at 12.5 meters to provide control for potential follow-up trenching. Even within this restricted area, we ended up collecting well over 600 samples. Now, our work concentrated on these 3 grids. Let's take a look at the results from each of these grids. On the price load grid to the west, we delineated anomalous response, and we consider anomalous response greater than 100 ppb in soils, gold in soils, over a distance of approximately 700 meters on this trend in 2 areas. The interesting thing is that the highest gold samples were found up here in this area of restricted gold in soil response. This is an area of decent bedrock exposure. The larger response off here to the south is in an area of overburden cover, and we have high hopes that subsequent trenching will delineate some nice bedrock gold responses in this area. On the Cambridge mine trend, once again, we delineated approximately 600 meters of anomalous gold in soil mineralization extending from north of the Cambridge mine. You can see the Cambridge mine here in this disturbed area. Here's the former loadout. The shaft would be about here. Anomalous gold and soil responses were located from north of the mine to the south. There's a bit of an offset, and there's a second zone that showed up here, and this has very high copper with it. It's a little different than what we saw in the main Cambridge trend. Finally, off to the north, we found anomalous gold and soil response over a limited area immediately east of the showings at the north grid. And it looks to us like perhaps this grid might have nicked potentially another soil anomaly off to the east here. We'll have to do some follow-up work to see if that pans out. So all in all, our work has delineated approximately 1,400 meters of anomalous strike on the three trends, and these are areas with gold and soil results more than 100 ppb. We've detailed them sufficiently to guide trenching. We hope to do that early in the new year, 2022.
In May and June 2022, we ran a hand trenching program at Cambridge. We excavated 29 hand trenches to bedrock. Depths ranged from ½ meter to over a couple meters. Most of them were pretty shallow. Some were a little deeper, like the one you see on the left. And we sampled along the trenches at maximum 1.5 meter intervals. Results were interesting. Of the 29 trenches, 21 returned gold better than 0.1 grams and over intervals that ranged from ½ meter to up to 11 meters. The best results are shown here. Trench 2210 was excavated in the area of the Cambridge mine, and this is likely an undersampling because the central 1 meter to 1.5 meters was actually covered with mine waste, and we couldn't get down and sample the center of the vein. So what you're seeing here, particularly in this interval here, is actually a shoulder sample, not the center of the vein. So we have high hopes that if we can get back and sample in here, we'll get much better results. 2205 was at the north end of the Price lode where that 73-gram gold sample came from, and it returned a nice interval. And then 2202 was further to the south, 400 or 500 meters away, and it returned a not tremendously exciting result of 4 meters at 0.33 grams, but right at bedrock in the center of that interval, we recovered a float sample that ran 62 grams gold, and obviously came from very close by, likely to the north, a little bit upslope. So we have another interesting target here. So what's next? Well, looking forward in January 2023, I'd like to do 3 things at Cambridge this year. We need to do some follow-up work on that south zone. We missed some workings. They need to be sampled. We need some hand trenching and see if we can find some more high-grade bedrock mineralization south of the Cambridge mine trend. At Cambridge mine, there are a couple of stopes that daylight, and we would like to enter the underground workings and see if we can get some, see how far we can get, see if we can do some underground sampling. And finally, we would like to do some mechanized trenching at Cambridge. Hand trenching is fun, but very hard work, and we think that if we were to up our game and run an excavator trenching program there, we might be able to quickly find some new targets at Cambridge. And that's our hope, so stay tuned.